This video is only one part of an in-depth review, so check out the rest at thegoodride.com. Thanks for watching. So this is a review of the Korua Otto Plus. I've spent lots of time on the Otto. It's been an old friend of mine. It's a board I own and love. So getting on the Otto Plus is something I've been wanting to do for a while, and I finally got one. I rode this primarily with Union Atlas, Burton Kendos, but I also got some time on this board with the Burton SLX and the Burton Imperial. I rode this in a wide variety of conditions, from good groomers to hard groomers to a little bit of pow to a little more pow, and got a good idea of this personality in comparison to the Otto. And there are many other boards in Korua's line that I've ridden, but these two are really the only ones close to each other. The only thing remotely close is the Tranny Finder and Tranny Finder Plus, but those are still so different that I didn't really include it in this review. To give you a short summary, this is the light, poppy version of the Otto with a faster base and just nice all black. And it is definitely much lighter, more poppy, easily accessible pop too, but more chattery in harder snow. So this was the winner in uneven terrain and just holding a harder line, and this was the winner for buttering, getting air, playing around, getting more speed out of a long flat cat track. This was the winner. So both of these boards are great one board quivers because you can ride them centered, do a lot on groomers. You can even ride switch really well for a Korua board, and pretty good for an all mountain board. And then set it back in powder, and they're great, just do anything one board quiver kind of rides. So for sizing, this 157 is wide for me and my size 9s, but for some reason it works. I don't think I would like the 153. For some reason with Korua boards, I tend to size up. With almost every other board out there in the industry, I'd usually tend to size down if I'm in between sizes. So that's a thing with Korua. This just works. It's a little, it's a little hard to manage, but nowhere near as much as I thought for this waist width and these, versus the nose and tail. As far as shape goes, it's the only board in Korua's line that's a double ender. The tip and tail are the same width. There's no taper, and it really feels like you can weight everything between the feet. You don't have to lean into the back to drive through a carve. It's very, very centered, very between the foot kind of ride. But if you want to lean back, you can. If you want to drive hard off your front foot, you can. You can do it all with this, and that's what double enders do really well. You've got a longer nose than tail though by a good bit. And the camber is a good bit of camber, very directional. Camber pretty much from the tail, maybe a touch of early rise, all the way in past the front insert, and then starting to transition into some early rise in the nose, along with a big old long nose. And it makes for a pretty technical ride. It appeals to that advanced intermediate, but more advanced to expert. That's kind of where it sits. It's for those who know how to ride camber, but want a little more of a forgiving ride than full camber. Not the easiest to skid turns, but doable. The flex, let's look at the flex here. Pretty stiff, medium stiff between the feet there. Up in the nose, it's a little softer. It's a little easy for a nose press. And the tail is pretty stiff too, but it's okay to butter on, not much. It's very similar to the Otto. Boy, this feels so much heavier. Same kind of flex, and this has been used a good bit. This is my own personal board. It feels a touch softer than the regular Otto, but not by too much. And there's definitely more energy and pop in this board. It just springs out of an ollie and out of a turn a little easier than this one. This one takes a little bit, just a little bit more work. Not the easiest to butter, but doable. Now, as far as speed goes, I'm torn between these two for two reasons. The base glide is better with this, but this is more damp. The regular Otto is just more damp. It's the board I want in slightly uneven terrain and to point it. In perfect conditions, I'd rather be on this. So I'm very torn between the two. I like this lighter, poppier ride, but and this much faster bass. This black bass they have is really fast. It really carries its speed well, and it's amazing. But as you pick up speed, especially in uneven terrain, this really starts to chatter. Now, is it bad like a lot of the ultralight boards out there? No, I've seen a lot worse when it comes to other ultralight boards out there. Some of them can be just an absolute chattery mess. But for example, I was riding around one day in hard snow, riding this most of the day, and thinking, yeah, this wasn't bad. And then I took out the regular Otto and I went, oh man, this thing is handling this kind of hard, uneven, micro bumpy snow so much better than this one, but it's manageable. So if you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of dampness, a little bit of the board's ability to handle all-day snow riding, and you mainly ride good conditions, this is going to be the call. Edge hold is very good. I like how well it grips for just being kind of like a regular side cut without any disruption. I've compared this against boards with disrupted side cuts on a few days, and yeah, I found those boards to hold a better edge, but this still held a really good edge. And if you can do a little magic, you know, twisting, really work through getting that edge to grip harder, you're going to be just fine in most conditions you want to ride. As far as turn initiation, I would say it's like medium, but I was expecting it to be slower for a 26 something waist width for a size 9 boot. I was really surprised at how well I could get this back and forth, but it's still not something I want to like hammer through a mogul line and do tight turns or be in a really tight tree line. But it was comfortable enough to where I didn't feel sketched in most situations, especially with slightly spaced out trees and, you know, not super tight lines. But it definitely favors a little bit bigger boot. I think a size 10 boot would be great and make this turn really fast and fun. So it's all dependent on boot size, of course, but if you're like me, it's going to be medium on the upper side of medium, closer to medium fast, which is pretty good for this waist width. So when it comes to carving, what I really like about this, and what maybe a lot of you will like about this and the regular Otto, is with a lot of tapered directional boards, like freeride boards out there, alternative freeride boards, those kind of boards, they require a lot more back foot weight on groomers but then, you know, excel in powder with minimal back foot weight. These boards, you can ride centered and weight yourself centered through a carve. You can drive hard off your front foot, you can lean back into your back foot, and it doesn't wash in the tail, and you don't need to always have that back foot weight or figure out where the sweet spot is in the side cut with what kind of stance angles. This just handles any kind of stance angle, any kind of stance width you want, and it drives through a turn really well. The Otto, I felt in harder, uneven snow, held its edge better through a carve. Their edge hold is similar, but in a carve, it held its edge better because it was damper and it didn't buck you out of that line you set. When I set a line with this in uneven snow, in good snow, it was, I almost liked this better than the Otto. But the minute the snow started to turn and get uneven, or if it was hard and micro bumpy, it wouldn't hold its edge as easy on a carve as this one would. This one wouldn't buck me out. This can buck you and bounce you around a little bit. Powder, I had some powder. I set it all the way back and rode them both in powder. Man, they float really well for what I would call an all mountain board, a one board quiver board. You've got a lot of directional float. Are they like the other Korua boards? No, they're definitely a step down. You notice a big difference in terms of directional float. All those tapered Korua boards sink into the snow a lot better. But this is great for having that centered stance kind of ride on groomers and having that double ender feel, but then having a lot of setback on board for powder. This feels like a lot of freeride boards I've tried float-wise. It does really well for its shape. I would say I like the base glide better on this one though in powder. It traveled longer through flat areas than this one, but this is better in that uneven into the day powder day. This is better at the beginning of the day. Ride and switch, very doable. The nose is definitely longer than the tail. it's a little different, but very doable, especially coming off any Korua board. You're like, wow, okay, this works. And I love getting air with this. It's hard to get this whole body in the air, but it just felt so natural getting air with this, and it just approaches little jumps that I did very well. Just a nice stable approach and a nice easy landing with a lot of tail there. So overall, I think these boards are very different than a lot of the Korua line, but me and my crew, we've had so much fun with these, and if it wasn't the time of COVID, I might have some other people joining in with me, but I'm trying to keep my distance, trying to be safe and responsible, and I'm just doing this one solo. I still love the Otto a little more than the Otto Plus because I ride in all conditions, but if you're a little lighter and you see really good snow a lot, I think this would probably be the better call because you get a faster base and you get a more lively board. So there you have it. All our reviews are a best effort, objective opinion from an average rider's perspective. There's no brand oversight, and we're free to say whatever we want. We send back everything unless it's a favorite, then we ask to keep those or straight up buy them. Now if you need advice, fill out the eHarmony profile in the Contact Us section of the site. It's the only way I can help you properly. If you want to support us, and if what we reviewed appeals to you, it helps if you buy through our links. So, thanks for watching.